They didn't go in for the last week of this one. So this is where we're but the last week showed a huge decrease in billing. And so they think this next one should resolve. They said it was dramatic in the last week.
I just don't want to make a comment and say we did something that you don't want me to.
Say, Lynn,
Yes.
you can post the recent financials as soon as you want.
Okay.
The ones that came in this last week. Were you on there?
I don't think she sent it to me.
See if I got it. I'll forward it to you. But they're good.
Are they on the share drive? Okay, I can get them from that.
Which one do you, the August?
This is August.
The August was, we got that email from.
Yeah, or on the shirt.
Do you want me to post all of them?
Which one? You want the financial statement?
Yes, that's what
No,
I.
not the agent.
Yes.
Never
Yes.
put, never
Just
put the
the
accounts
financial
receivable.
No.
Just
It's in
the,
shared drive.
never do the general ledgers
Right.
or the accounts receivable.
It's just the
You don't want
financial
comparison.
statement.
Yeah, it should say FS on it.
No, it's the balance sheet, and they call it a statement of revenue and expenses. That's what you go on. In fact, I'll give you my copy of financials when I'm done.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a hard time doing that on my phone.
Yeah. It's always easier. It's hard to do it. Or a computer.
I would rather.
Then I can put a line across it.
Like 7.
Just says financial statement. And it's got that. And then-
It's just, I don't
Yes,
have
you
to do
did.
that.
You would-
Yeah. All right, it's 9 o'clock. I'd like to call this board meeting to order. Madam Secretary, do we have a quorum?
We do.
Thank you. I'd like to say that Joyce had some family things, so she won't be here today, but anything that we decide we need to vote on, she's prepared to do that via email and for our documents. I'd like to start off that I'm very happy to say that our Go Window Balcony project is complete on time. Bill's going to speak a little bit more about closing out the financial end of it. There's a few cleanup items that Livingstone and Triton have pointed out that are being looked at now, so we're going to move forward with that. And I'm very happy to say that we completed that monster of a task, and I appreciate all y'all's help. The other thing, real quickly, I know this has been a sticking point for us since January. Our irrigation system here is under evaluation. We've made a few repairs so we can evaluate the system. Once that evaluation is complete, the contractor with Livingstone is prepared to come in and decide to give us a bid on either fixing it as is or replacing the whole system. But with the number of leaks and issues that we've had, we don't know what that answer is yet. So we're going to have to move forward with that at a later time as soon as we find out that information. So we need to approve our unapproved meeting minutes as distributed. That was the June meeting. June.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the 6/12/24 meeting minutes as distributed.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Anybody opposed? So as an owner's note, please check the manufacturer date of your water heater. Anything that's greater than 12 years old, Statistically, they tend to leak. Also, according to our paperwork and the documentation that we have, stainless steel braided lines for any of your feed lines for your water are required. And not only is this good for the association, it's good for the members, for the owners. We have had, since January, we've had at least 2 water leaks inside units a week. Triton and our contractors have been on top of it and catching it. But I know things happen. If you think about the problems we have in our own homes, that things happen, you multiply that by 276. Things happen. So those are some things we can do to mitigate some of the issues that we have. And I would like to just make sure that we all do that, myself included. Cameras are going up around the complex for security. Very excited about that. We've got one by the East Pool that handles East Pool, Boardwalk, West Pool area. They're going into the buildings around here. Those are being fed into the security building, so it'll give us more eyes. Even if the rover is out patrolling the area, the person sitting at the gate can be aware of something. And if we have an owner has an issue, we can review the video and see what's going on. So that's been a major step. I know we started that, or y'all started that before Sally or after Sally, and we're just at a point where we can complete that. As far as the president's report, that's all I have. Amy?
I don't have much either. A little touch on the barbecue this evening. It starts at 6 o'clock. We'll try to have all the food cooked and prepared for that. And I definitely want to thank the beautification committee. If you walk around the property, you'll see their sweat equity and what they've accomplished, and there's going to be more happening. And we would really appreciate more help. You don't have to commit to 2 or 3 hours, but any help you could give us, and these ladies would be really, really welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, I should say, because there's some guys out there who are working for sure as well. Social committee, there's only 3 of us members right now, so it takes a little bit to put these barbecues together. I was excited to see 55 to 60 people are going to be present tonight, and we're loving that owner involvement, and it's time for us to all get to know each other and have some fun together. So looking forward to seeing you. Looking forward for our December gathering and our quarterly meeting. We're going to be having the gathering here in this room because of the time of year and the coldness. But it's going to be dressed as your favorite Christmas character. It could be anything from a wise man to Rudolph. So whatever you would like to do, going to try to have fun with that. So, and yeah, tonight it's the football theme. So please wear your favorite team's jersey or whatever football thing you might own that you want to wear. I'm also going to mention we have some more of these that Bill brought in, the Gulf Shores Plantation license plates. We're going to wrap that up. We just have a few left. We've deposited the money to the committee for that. And I also picked up some magnets. If you, as an owner, want to pick these up, these are magnets for your guests to, they can place an order for the coffee shop next door for ice cream, coffees, whatever. So you can grab some of those. And I think that's just about all I have.
Okay, well, I guess good news on the treasurer's report. So we set out and we do a budget every fall. We have to get that budget to the association, what is it, by the first week of December or something like that. So we have to estimate what all our costs are going to be a year in advance and try to be as accurate as we can be on that. And as you can imagine, that's a pretty difficult task. And what most associations do is they try to guess as good as they can. And at the end of the year, what they miss, they just assess or whatever. So through 8 months, through August 31st, and these financials are available on the shared drive now.
They will be after.
They will be after the meeting. We're getting them cleaned up and they look much better. But the bottom line is through 8 months, we're $30,000 positive, which is 1%. So our budget ends up being 99% accurate through 8 months. Now, some things were over, some things were under. So as we go through the financials, and I went through these very early this morning, one of the things we see on the balance sheet is you'll notice when you go look, there's $1.126 million of receivables from the association, and that represents the next 2 assessments. We have an assessment that'll come due 3/25 and one that comes due January of 26, and then that wraps up the window project. So that's about it's more money than the 1.1 million, because some owners have elected to just pay those assessments in advance and not mess with it. So we have that much left in accounts receivable, and I'll mention that when we talk about the windows and door project. But as I go through the income, well, it's a statement of revenues and expenses. If most of you, if you've been in corporations, it looks like an income statement. So when we review, we look at revenues first and then expenses, and we look at good guys and bad guys. And on the revenue side, the good guys are when we make more money than we thought we would. And the bad guys are when we make less money than we thought we would. So we start by looking at the larger variances each month and then trying to understand why did we miss that estimate. So as we look and we go through, we see that there's really not too much on the revenue side. We're really pretty accurate. We have some positives and some negatives, but nothing really that's material. So there's small misses. They don't really show up. We get on the expense side and we do the same thing. And the bad guys on the expense side are the costs that are greater than what we estimated. And the good guys are the costs that are running below what we estimated. And the first one that sticks out that we've been struggling with is our accounting expense. Now, it's been important for us to get our accounting with a professional group because we're one of the largest associations on the beach. And I mean, we're huge compared to other associations, and we run multi-million-dollar budgets with, I probably look at 4 to 5 expenses a day that I have to approve that come through, at least that many. And those are ones that are exceptions that aren't just recurring expenses that are standard. We probably have a water leak and damage that we have to review once a week. So we have a lot of things going on in the background that most of the owners don't see. Accounting, the big problem we had with accounting, it's just like our attorneys. If we let the association members call our attorneys every time they had a legal question, we would get a huge bill because at $300 an hour or whatever they charge, it's a significant amount of money. The same thing is true with accounting. And what we found was that we had a group of owners, and there seems to be the same group of owners a lot of times, calling because they're confused or there's mistakes that have been made. And by calling into the accounting company, every time we call the accounting services, the clock runs because that's not part of the services. And so what we found was that we were having an extraordinary amount of telephone calls and expenses that were related to it. And we tried to brainstorm on ways that we could figure that out and reduce those costs without really compromising the integrity of what we're trying to do in the process. So by having the owners direct their calls and financial questions to Lynn, and then Lynn can batch that, and then we have one meeting, we can resolve a lot of that without getting to the accounting group. That saves us a tremendous amount of money. And, it saves us, a significant amount of money. We should reduce the accounting. We should get back. We're already back. The last week, our billing was way down. So this month that we're currently in, we expect to see the billing drop dramatically, but it should save us $25,000 to $30,000 this year, which is a lot of money when we need stuff for irrigation and other things. So that's really the big bad guy that we see there. We have some other good guys, and we go through and we look at those. Uninsured expense is still a good guy. Even though we've had water damage, we haven't had as much water damage as we would have had. And but we do have a bad guy with landscaping and irrigation. I think, Joel, you wanted to take questions at the end?
Yes.
We're going to take questions at the end if that's okay. So as we go through, we look and then we bring this up to the board, and then we have to investigate, try to figure out why that's the way it is. Sometimes we have to go back and look at billing and invoices and see if they were correctly posted to the right account or the wrong account. That takes a little bit of time. But I can tell you from looking at these financials over the last 6 or 7 months, they've cleaned up tremendously. Joel and I have had meetings at the accounting office working on that, getting things like instead of billing it to building and maintenance repair, it should have been billed to uninsured expenses, and just cleaning up a few things like that. But at the end of the day, we're right where we thought we would be, and we're slightly positive, which is really, really good from a financial perspective. So our bottom line is, like I said, we're positive $30,000 year to date through August 31, which is a 1% variance on the positive side. So, pretty much exactly where we thought we would be. No big surprises. We do have to figure out irrigation and landscaping and some of those things, but really we're down to just, 1 or 2 more problems to solve. There'll be more problems that'll come up, but that's kind of where we're at. So it really right now, solid, pretty good report.
Thank you, Bill. Okay. Before we get into old business and move to new business, I just want to take just a second to introduce Emily Quintero. She is the new facility manager here at Gulf Shores Plantation. Emily's got a lot to do, but it's very important to put names and faces. So thank you so much for everything that you do.
Well, have a nice day.
She's got stuff to do.
Gotta get to work.
Yes, thank you. So moving on to old unfinished business, number one on the list is Pink Star concerns. I have met with Pink Star a couple of times. I've expressed displeasure to Triton, our facilities manager with Pink Star. They're in contact at least daily with things. The project's cleaning up. They've moved to a digital work list that is emailed to the guys on the ground here every day. And they check it off, and anything that is not checked off, it shows in red at the home office, and supposedly they're following up on that, keeping an eye on it. I came in earlier this week. I met with Andrew and told him that we really need to pick up our game, and they've been working every day, but as absent owners, it's difficult. We depend on Triton, and they have their own set of problems, but we are holding them to their letter of the contract and making those adjustments as we move forward. Any other comments with Anchor? With Pink Star?
I think that covers what we find and address.
All right, so the Anchor demand letter, the status of that, I was able to finally get an email from Craven and Perry. The suit has been drawn up. They're looking to, they think they found the correct address. I gave them 2 different addresses. They think they found the correct address. They're going to serve and then notify from there. Yeah, and the question as a board we have to do, and my favorite thing is the juice worth the squeeze. Right now, I think it is. We're going to spend a couple of $1,000s on service and initially filing the suit, but we're looking at almost $43,000. And if the information we have is correct, if they do have an insurance policy that covers errors and omissions and gross negligence, we should be on the positive side. If it turns into a dogfight, then the board will have to review that and see if it's worthwhile to pursue. If we spend $30,000 to collect 48 and then attorney's fees on top of that, we would have to make a decision. So I would like to continue to monitor this, but keep everybody aware of the status of it. That's all I can hope for right now.
What is that for?
Sir?
What is that for?
We'll talk about it. The short answer is when we moved from Anchor Management that handled our facilities, that handled our day-to-day things, as well as the accounting, we were not getting financial statements. And we found that out in March, just before our March meeting. We severed our relationship, and then we hired Grant Sanders and Taylor. And when we did that, they had to do some forensic accounting and go back and recreate books from the middle of 22.
Just additional charges, that's fine.
Yes, yes.
I didn't.
So
I
part of
didn't
their,
realize that.
no, part of their contract was to handle accounting services. They failed in that effort, so now we're trying to collect what they owe us.
Agree.
Thank you. It's a great question. I
Well,
assumed,
we might have some new owners
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
no, thank you. Bill, you handled the financial update on class and everything? Is there
Not
anything to
yet,
add?
not yet. When do you want me to discuss that now?
Yes,
Just briefly?
please.
Well, we wrapped the window and door project, and you know, what a pleasure it was to work with Livingstone. I mean, they actually did the work, came in on budget, did it on time. I mean, at the beach right now, trying to get things done is just an impossibility. So we got through that project. And I think the other big get that we realized was when we started to open up the buildings, we were concerned that we were going to find a lot of issues. And we found some on the west side of one when we opened up one. And we thought, oh God, if this continues, this project's going to get really expensive. But as we got through it, we found out the damage was just limited to that and a few very small other areas. So we really didn't have any cost overruns on the project that were material. So when we wrapped the project and finished, and the project cost basically what we thought it would cost, plus a small overage for a few minor things that they had to correct. Now we go all the way back to the beginning when we started to put the plan together to do this project. And then we had to add the balconies to it. Then we had to decide what the assessments were gonna be. We were just projecting and we really didn't know. The good news is we were pretty accurate in our projections. And what we did as a board was we committed monies that we had in reserve, and we were bringing extra monies to reserve because we knew we were gonna have some problems. So we took those reserve funds and allocated it towards these capital projects, which reduced the amount of debt that we were gonna have to borrow. Because as some of you remember, when we started this, interest rates were low, but by the time we got to the loan, interest rates had jumped up. So it was our opinion that what we wanted to do was to delay borrowing and to borrow as little money as possible so that we had as small of an interest expense as possible. So we followed that strategy. We committed monies from reserves to offset the cost of the project. It depleted our reserves slightly, but to a level that we believe is reasonably safe. So as we go to finalize the loan, we find out that the branch manager of the bank who was handling its last day was yesterday and didn't do any of the paperwork. So we'll have to figure it out next week. But our loan balance was, it is 975,275. 975,000. We're going to add to that the last draw on the window project, which should bring this up, and I wish I had the exact number, but it's going to be 1.1 million, a little south of that. We have 3 years and 7 months left to amortize. The loan's going to be at 8%. We're going to re-amortize that balance because we originally got the loan with as much, we had the ability to borrow up to 2.7 million. We didn't want to borrow that much money. So we're going to re-amortize it this week. We think that the new amortization payment is going to be around $29,000 a month. So we've done a cash plan, and that cash plan is going to carry us through to the next assessment. We're going to grab some cash then. It'll carry us to the next assessment and we'll grab some cash. There's no reason to believe that there's going to be any additional assessment. There's the final assessment looks like it's adequate. And when we make that final assessment, what we were doing is we were moving reserves to the front end of the project, and then we were going to capture reserves on the back end of the project. So by the time we go to close the loan out, which will be the end of January 26, when we close that loan out, we should have in reserves. We won't have to charge any more money other than the assessments that are on the books now. We should have about $750,000 in reserves at that point. And then we'll slide closer to $1 million by the end of the year. Now that's if we don't make any other capital investments, but there's no reason to think that there's a capital investment that's looming out there anywhere. So another good report, no surprises on the horizon. The projections were really pretty accurate. And because we had good, I think this board and the previous board has exercised good constraint, which put us in a good position financially. And for those old members that remember, 3.5 years ago, we were bankrupt and we were $500,000 in the hole. So I think from where we've gone to where we are today, and by restoring the integrity in our financials, I feel really comfortable about where we're at. So as always, if any of you read the financials and if you've got any specific questions, don't hesitate to send me an email. Happy to answer it if I can.
Thank you. New business. First new business item is making a line item in our budget for the beautification committee. We had talked about it, it slipped through the cracks, so I would like to make a motion that we do a line item on the budget for beautification.
I'll second that.
For discussion, I have a question on that. I do think we need to set that out there, but it wouldn't be, you're talking about for next fiscal year?
Correct.
Okay, so it wouldn't be funded, so we'd have to decide during the budget process how much to fund that.
Well,
The problem is that it has been funded by
Correct.
owners. Right now, a current amount of base what we have versus our expenses, we have a positive $651.92. And that's where we're at right now, is what has been donated versus what has been taken out. So what our accounting firm is needing us to do is make a motion to have that much put in that, allocate part of our operating funds to that. So
In
they
that
can
amount?
have
In
that.
that
So
amount?
when other owners pull in stuff and they donate stuff, it can go to that fund rather than us having to manually track it, because they're having to manually track it. And as we discussed earlier, we don't want to increase their hours or other things,
Right.
and us having to contact them to track down something, so I would like to amend that motion basically to have it as a 651.92 for the allocation, because what has happened is owners write a check to it and it goes in the operating fund, that gets lost somewhere, so you don't know what it is, and then I'm a spreadsheet queen, and I'm like, no, it's this. So it's like, we don't want to get charges by accounting for that, so that's what I would.
So how do you want to amend it to include,
$651.92. But basically, we're allowing Grant Sanders and Taylor to reclass part of that operating fund balance to that $651.92, so that can be the beautification.
Is that after yesterday's withdrawal?
That is after yesterday's
And
withdrawal.
before the next
Okay.
withdrawal, but yes, okay.
we may be able to get that line item in now, because we can't change a budget line item without a vote.
And that's this, yeah.
I
That's
think
what
that-
Holly wants us to reclass that, because
Right.
it's out there in the,
Yeah, it's there, it's
the
just not
money is
called
there,
back.
it's just
All right.
not going to the right pot.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you're talking
And
about.
she had
It's
asked,
not going to the
yeah,
right
that-
pot.
Last time I talked to her, she said, me,
I
that
just need that
specified,
motion.
because when I've dropped off checks, then it's like all of a sudden it's not there. So this will help her and help us,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
owners see
yeah.
where their donations are.
And part of what this discussion is trying to figure out, trying to get away from just one big bucket, try to get into smaller and smaller buckets so we can identify expenses. So when something doesn't look right, we can find it and figure it out a lot quicker. So yeah, I'm 100% in favor of that.
Okay, so
You want to vote it?
Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Any opposed?
Who was the second?
Tim.
Thank you.
and I also want to add that if you would please, if you make a donation, if you would please send a copy to Christy Kravenik, and her information's listed, as well as Stephanie. It's just to help Holly and help support Grant Sanders and Taylor to track all this. So it's not meant to be anything but support for them, but we really are asking that donations that are made, that you copy Stephanie and Christy, both, please. And we appreciate all the donations that we're seeing. It's great to see that, and it's going to good use.
Jump over one item here. The 2025 annual meeting is coming up in January. And as a board, we need to decide if we're going to do it on site here or get another location. I know that most associations start about now picking their location for a meeting. The concern is if we go to another place and we spend $500 and we have 26 people or 24, thank y'all for showing up. We have a limited number of people, then we wasted association funds. But if we do it here and we have 276 owners plus their spouse or significant others show up, then we don't have room for everybody. And I don't know how to fix it. I'm open for discussion and
Well,
figuring it out.
yeah, when we were looking around, I think I've heard the feedback that people want to be on site. Totally understand that. They're staying in their condo. You don't have to drive into town. The distance, the further away we go, like we have last year, we saved money. But we didn't have that many people show up. But we as a board don't want any of our owners to feel like we're holding your owner meeting and not allowing you the space to attend it. So we want to kind of get some feedback from all of you, and we don't want to wait forever because of the timeline and places booking up. Stephanie and I talked about it, and I haven't really discussed it with you two guys. If we just give you 1 week, I mean, we got such a fast response on this barbecue thing. So if we can just get a fast response, I will be there. You do not have to message us and say that you're not going to be here. We're just trying to keep track of how many people will be there. Or how do people feel? What's the feedback
Do you
on?
want to do a survey?
You want to do it?
Or should we just do the email us if you're going to be here, and we'll assess that number.
Like a RSVP real quick.
Just
Kind of
email.
give us some feedback so we have some numbers to make
I like it.
a bit.
Yes, and then we'll make a decision
Yeah.
in the next week or two,
Okay.
in the next 2 weeks. So email me and Lynn.
And we'll put that out and
Yep, I can just send an email.
Yeah.
I'll send out an email to all of you, to all the owners, or I'll write it up. Lynn will send it out, and then we'll go based on that feedback. Are all of you that are here okay with that decision, that we're trying to save money? Okay, all right, never mind, we'll do questions later. I don't want to open up that, and there's a reason why we're just saving it to the end. Everybody's time efficient, yours and ours.
I've noticed in the next item, I've noticed that we have some really incredible speeds coming through our complex. According to our documentation, the speed limit here is 10. I did a walk around in the facility yesterday. There are no speed limit signs from Kiva into the complex. I would like to explore the possibility of putting a couple of signs up, and I would also like to explore putting speed bumps at the entrances to the parking lots between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, and then coming into 4. Something to do. I was very concerned last weekend. I was there 2 weekends ago, sitting on my balcony, conducting another meeting, and a kid ran with mom and dad or somebody, ran through the parking lot away from mom and dad, and the car was coming down trying to set land speed records. And as an association, we can't afford for that to happen and not take some steps to mitigate those kinds of things. So I'd like to at least explore it. I've done a little bit of research, and about $3,000 you can have speed bumps, and they're user-friendly installed. I'm not saying that's the answer because I hate speed bumps, but I think we need to look at that and explore it, because I can't afford to let a child or anybody get run over because somebody's being negligent with their speed.
I definitely think the return of the signs, because we had those, we need to definitely do that first, the 10-mile-per-hour signs.
I think
On
10's too high.
property.
I mean,
No,
I think a little
it's
lower than,
They used to be 13 as an odd number.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they do that just to draw your attention to it.
Yeah.
Weird number.
And that's something we can explore, try to see if those signs are here, because we found some other signs, but it struck me the other day, and I just think it's something we need to look at.
well, now that you brought it up in a meeting and it's public and it's a liability,
Yes,
I think we have to address it.
and,
Well, it should be addressed.
Yeah, no, I agree with you
and I
completely.
would
I want
like,
to be proactive too.
Yeah.
That's not really
and my
responsible.
point is, I don't have the answer. Is it speed bumps or speed humps? There's two different animals.
Or lumps.
And then there's the other things, but I think our facility management people could probably point us in the right direction, because they have more than one complex. And I just wanted to bring it up before I brought it up to
Well,
them.
Kiva has speed bumps.
Right.
Kiva has speed bumps, and it slowed things down because it was dangerous at Kiva.
And it is here too.
You can ignore a sign, you can't ignore a speed bump.
Good point. Very good point.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think we should look into it and see if we come up with some hard numbers,
Definitely
a plan.
The vendors need a reminder too, it's definitely an issue.
Absolutely.
And that's where the hump or lump would be.
Yeah,
bump would
absolutely.
be more effective than a.
They're all
shaking
shaking.
their
There's a song.
I was just getting
No,
going.
no.
Okay, next topic.
All
There's a
right.
song in there.
So, as a board, we've talked about, last year we had a flat budget, meaning there was no upticks, no real downticks. Things were pretty much what they were. Potentially don't see a whole lot of incoming revenue. And as a board, we've discussed revenue potential. Nobody wants an assessment, myself included. Nobody wants to, say, oh, we have a fee for doing this. But I really think we need to start exploring the potential for paid parking. And that we've got a lot of miscommunication about it, the paid parking, and I wish Joyce was here because she's done the research on this. But there are several different programs out there. It's a QR code that attaches to your reservation. And in order to complete your reservation, you have to pay a $25 parking fee that's good for your stay, or whatever number we come up with. And then it doesn't do anything to the revenue of the owner. They don't have to write a check to Gulf Shores Plantation. They don't have to do anything. That money is separate and apart from the reservation and whatever other fees are involved. And it goes directly to an account for Gulf Shores Plantation.
Joel, can I add something to that for the
Please.
owners? For the past 2 years, I went to the print shop and asked them to give me an itemized list. I was thinking that we were doing about 10,000 parking passes a year. That is correct. For the past 2 years, 10,000 has been our magical number. Even if you were to do a $20 fee, that's $200,000 a year for revenue. That's a lot of improvements that can
I
be
thought
used.
as an owner, we own the rights to 2 spots. How does that look in our bylaws? And like when we purchased, that was brought up by both real estate agents that we had the rights to our 2 spots.
And you as an owner wouldn't pay to park, that would be your right.
Yeah, but I have family and friends coming down.
Then you could let them borrow your owner's pass.
And there's a couple of things in
I
there.
just am asking where that is.
Yeah.
No, no,
It's fine.
I actually, I have that
That's
concern.
just a
I
lot
have
of
that
stress on me
concern.
as an owner that I should, if somebody says, I'm in St. Louis and I wanna go down and I'm mailing my owner's pass.
And there
I'm
are,
asking where it is in the bylaws, is all I'm asking.
It
That's
is,
fair.
it is, and it is, and
I was
that's
told
been,
by law that I had the rights to 2 spots, so I'm trying to ask how that could be changed.
and I think we have to resolve that before we move forward and get a detailed plan and then, and address that.
Right,
Because that's my concern. When I bought it, I had 2 spots, and I'm not necessarily on the side of parking revenue, you know?
well, it's just a discussion.
It's a
that's why-
discussion, and that's why we're going back and forth.
Legally, I'd like to know where we are in the paperwork on that with bylaws or
And
contract
that's a very fair,
That's a
question.
question that has to be answered, and then we have to see a detailed proposal and how it would work.
Right,
Because what I don't want to do is make something, what I wouldn't want as an owner is something that's so burdensome, you know?
Quite
And-
frankly, it was one of the reasons we purchased, because we weren't a parking garage and it wasn't assigned, and that's what brought us down this way. So to have that changed, I don't understand the process that could change.
The other thing that I'm, you know, we want to try to keep as much of a competitive advantage as I rent. So I'm looking for competitive advantages as part of this discussion. I also know that we're very close to designating this area of Fort Morgan as a historical district. There's a certain designation, I can't recall, I saw it this week. And then that's going to require a lodging tax. And what we're trying to do is avoid being annexed into Gulf Shores. So they're looking at, there's going to be a lodging tax one way or another. If Gulf Shores gets it, it's all of the lodging tax. If we can do it ourselves, it may be less, but there's going to be a lodging tax imposed. So what I'm saying is there's going to be additional fees eventually to renters regardless. And that's, you know, that's my concern, but that's part of the discussion.
right, absolutely, and I didn't wanna, I'm not arbitrarily deciding anything. This is
No.
A board, a membership,
we do have to look at
We-
the amount of money that's sitting on the table that we could potentially get. I was out in property and a whole bunch of guests were in the pool and they were saying, how come you guys don't charge? And they weren't staying here. They were staying in the other phases over here saying, I pay all the time. I pay everywhere I travel and I'd be willing to pay it just, you know, $25 for a week. It's, I don't know. And as far as, you know, each owner can do what they want with theirs, what if they want to charge their family member $25 or, I don't know, we could address that.
The impact,
to use it.
the financial impact would be, based on those numbers, and just a rough estimate would be, it would, and this is on average, it would be a little bit less for 1-bedroom owners and 2 bedrooms, you know how that works. So, but on average, it would reduce your HOA fees about $45 a month. If we were
So
able
you're
to,
talking about reducing the HOAs by doing the parking pass, not increasing the parking pass on top of the current HOAs.
Well, that's
Exactly.
something-
It would be income,
that would be, I mean, you gotta,
potential revenue.
the truth is, we've got to look at what we expect next year's expenses to be and create a budget for next year. Now, this year, we didn't raise the HOAs, and mid-year, we got a 17.5% reduction in our insurance. So we started to move in the right direction. Now, we didn't raise the HOAs because we reduced the amount of reserves, contribution to reserves, that the HOA expenses increased. So those were equal. So we used to reserve $340,000 a year to reserves. So we took it to 170, and we took that other 170, and that offset increased expenses in the HOA. So we kept our fees flat. So we'll have to create a budget for next year, which actually I'll start working on next week, so I can get some stuff to the board. But we'll develop a budget for next year and see how that looks, right? Everybody complains, well, this isn't good enough and that isn't good enough, and dollars can usually solve things, but then how much more can we spend? You know, we have to be conscious about that. And so we'll put the budget together and then look at the impact of what this would make, and then we'll have some real robust discussions. We've got to get a legal opinion on the document. There's other things we have to clean up with the documents too, so it's not as easy as it appears, but that would be the goal. If, in a perfect world, if the HOA stayed flat, that would reduce parking could reduce that. But, you know, increases are gonna happen, so.
So I had a quick question. What do the other plantation HOAs, do they charge for?
They
parking?
all do.
So what, their people can just come over here and park for free?
They're not parking, they're just walking
We're
over.
just walking.
Yeah, I mean, Kiva doesn't charge for parking, we don't charge for parking, the others charge for parking. So we have work to do.
I think one of them charges like $35
It
parking.
is, and 55.
It-
There's more than,
It's a lot.
and then you go in Orange Beach, Gulf Shores in there, $60.
60. Yep.
Maybe an owner guest parking could be different, or the owner could have
Yeah, we could
passes
come up
in
with
your
a
unit
solution
for
for
them,
that.
yeah.
There are several options
Yeah.
available. but-
Yeah,
It's digital too, instead of
Yes.
having to do something.
All right, so next new item, reminder that the fourth quarter directors meeting is gonna be Saturday, December 7th, here at the meeting room. On that one, we'll introduce the financials like Bill was talking about earlier, so December 7th will be that meeting. Please come up. Other new business real quick. I know we've beat this horse. We have 3 members to be elected in January. Please, if you love this place as much as we do and y'all are involved because y'all come to the meetings, please consider running for one of those positions. It's always nice to have new people. Majority of our board is coming off this year, so it's gonna be important to have some like-minded individuals that want to come out and support the growth of Gulf Shores Plantation. Real quick, food truck will be outside from 10 to 1 today. Like Tammy said, we got the social at 6 PM this afternoon at the East Pool. Love y'all to come out and enjoy some burgers and brats and wear your favorite team jersey. See if you can beat mine. We'll see. Go Tigers. No, not really.
Beautification 1 to 3.
Beautification is 1 to 3. This afternoon, we're gonna meet here. And here, or back.
We're meeting at Building 3, or you can meet by the East Pool, because we'll be putting together that Adirondack chair. that they've been
Got a
approved.
really big, exciting project. It's gonna be a great, another photo opportunity. Thank the beautification committee for everything that they're doing. Any other new business? If that's the case, I would like to,
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right.
and now if anybody has any
Yes,
questions
please.
pertaining to what we discussed here today, and if you have anything that we didn't discuss today, email us and it can go on the agenda for our December meeting.
I know you were talking about the, annual meeting in January. Have y'all talked to maybe or solicited any of the churches down Fort Morgan Road to possibly use their facilities?
No,
We have not this year. That has been something that has been done in the past, and a lot of times, if you look at the quantity of size, we have to go out further to get that, you know, even, a lot of times people actually have to go to Beach Club instead of, you know, the ones closer here, because they have more of a facility. So it just, really, last year we had, I think, 86 or 89, it was 86. We had 86 owners present. This room can handle that. They had them on site for years, but it's just an opportunity. We want owners to be able to help us make the decision. If you're coming, let us know. We want to give you the space. But if we're not coming, then we don't want to rent something and waste the association's funds. So we just want to make the best decision with the association.
when you email me and Lynn, you can go ahead and put your suggestions of where we might hold it or whether that we can just.
Well, you know, we've owned here for 14 years and we always had meetings here in this room until the last couple of years, and it always worked. I mean, you know.
And we had a couple meetings where we wouldn't fit in here. We did have, like last September's meeting, we didn't all fit in here because we have that 100, is it 100 capacity here in this
Right.
room? So it just gets, it's a good problem if we have more than that attending and involved.
Well, people can stand up, you know.
Oh, I know, but we do
People can
have-
Stand up, you know.
I've been here a long time, I know when we pack the room, we very rarely have a quorum here, you know? And we
It's
had to
dwindling
get,
down now that we've passed Sally.
we had to get a quorum,
That's September 16th.
yeah, we had to get a quorum to change some document, but, and we do need to get a quorum in the future at some point, if we can get our attorney off his butt. Then we'll be able to have that meeting, but until then, yeah, I agree, I like doing the meetings here and cramming people in, but we don't wanna make it an embarrassment and inconvenience people either.
And our internet's always good.
Yes.
Into like a public school or something like that, where they might have auditorium that would be suited.
It's-
I mean,
Yeah, the problem,
they
people
would
just,
probably, they would probably like to have a little bit of income on their side and, you know, it'll be easier to fit everybody in.
our goal is to not have any expense, because we already have this.
Right.
But we've had a couple meetings, it's a good problem after Sally, that we had more in attending than fit in this room, but I think we're dwindling back to fitting in the room, and we can go back to that. We just discussed it as a board, we didn't want to make that decision and have anybody feel, or any owners feel upset that we made a decision without owner feedback. So, when you email me and Lynn, feel free to give us suggestions about where you think we might be able to go if you want us to go off property. If you want us to stay here, let us know that too. That's all we want to know.
But I think that's I think churches and schools are good ideas. And if the RSVP thing looks like we have to do it, then we need to pursue those.
Then we can
Exactly,
explore
we'll do that. We'll go down that road if we need to. That's the
Yes.
best answer.
The minimum I found, I've called several places, the minimum is $500, and that doesn't take into account your audio and visual stuff that you need. We did not anticipate the internet issues that we had. It wasn't getting out of the building. We don't know what was going on, but that's something that we were not anticipating. So any place that we do go, we have to make sure that we have the capabilities and that it works flawlessly. But that might incur a fee. So that's what we're finding. A minimum just to book a place is $500, and then all the extras, you're talking at least probably $1,000 for a reservation that could be anywhere from down here in Fort Morgan to Gulf Shores and Foley.
So please, if you have any suggestions, the RSVP is gonna be important for all of us, so we know what to do. My big concern is I want everybody's voice to be heard, and I want a space where we can all fit and not have people, well, I wanted to come sit in the meeting because I had a question and be in their condo watching it online somewhere. I think it's important that if we have 50 people, we'll do it here. If we've got 200 people, we need to think about moving somewhere else, because I think everybody's voice needs to be heard. And that's my thoughts on that. Yes, sir.
How many people does this room hold?
100.
100.
100 according to the fire marshal.
And the January meetings, you know, that annual meeting is normally way over.
86.
Attendance-wise is way over that.
Last year was 86.
Really?
Yes.
And then before Sally, I mean, you might have had, anywhere from 50 to 90.
I've been at all of them. I don't remember them.
If there was a major issue, like some of the ones after Sally, we all wanted to know what was gonna happen with our places, right? And plus, we had COVID going around, so we had to have extra spacing. That's when there's a pressing issue, that's when the population does, increase as far as attendance at a meeting, but, we haven't had that.
So we don't have that many in the meeting. It's only maybe one or two, right?
Yes, ma'am.
This is another subject.
Yes, ma'am.
I live here and I'm out here a lot, and I have complained a lot about the cleanliness of this building. I've been very upset about the hallways, the doorway, filthy hand marks everywhere, the elevators, the rugs are cockeyed and they're full of sand, the trash cans are always overloaded. I've done a lot of complaining, and I don't know if what's her name's here, but nobody responds to me when I send these very, very long texts to either Triton or, whatever the name is, I forget right now. But I'm very, 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 I said, you cannot call this a resort when the water, the floors are so filthy, the hallways, the walkways, they take those big machines, and I swear they're using dirty water because everything has a brown sheen on it. And most of y'all probably don't live here, but I'm here a lot, and it's not clean.
Yes, ma'am.
It's gotten better since this new girl came, the new Tyson girl.
Joel comes on property a lot, and I come here a lot. I also live locally, and when he referred earlier that there's been discussions, it's not gonna turn overnight, but I'm glad to hear you're seeing a difference, but we agree with you wholeheartedly. And I'm sorry you're not getting the responses though.
Well, I
think
mean,
that-
but you're being heard because we're discussing it constantly. We switched from Alberto to landscaping and housekeeping to this one. And I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with the billing. No, I don't think anybody here is doing cartwheels for the work they're doing. I walked through building 3 today before the meeting, and the 3rd floor, I don't know when the last time the 3rd floor was swept over there. So, and I'm here, I'm on property almost every day. So I'm in and out of here a lot. And, I'm not happy with it either. So, but it takes time to try to resolve it. And none of us are happy with it. None of us think they're doing a great job, and we're trying to figure it out, right?
I think the biggest takeaway is that I wouldn't see you getting responses. I mean, we can't do that, and so that will be addressed. We'll make sure.
Are you sending those by work orders or?
No, I send it by text,
Okay.
and also.
Oh, goes to Appfolio
Send it
text,
to
right?
Triton through text,
Okay.
and I'm sending a text that's,
Okay.
100 words, 200, I'm very detailed, and I'm getting no responses. One day I came in here and some cleaner had taken every washer and every dryer in this building. And then when her stuff was done, I set it on top of the dryer, put my clothes in. She never came down to dry her clothes, so I put my things in the dryer. When they were done, she came down and took my clothes out of my washer and put them on top and put her stuff in.
Was that somebody's personal property management company?
I think so.
Okay.
They're
But
using our
she-
carts too.
Yeah, they're using
There's some bad vendor habits right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I sent a very, very long text to Lynn, never got one response.
That was communicated to facilities, and we were trying to address that as best we could. Unfortunately, we don't know who that cleaner
She
was.
did not give me her name, she came in my face, she used terrible language.
Yeah, we
And I
have,
just kept saying, what is your name and who do you work for?
it's so hard for us to track them unless we physically see them. And Emily is on site, maybe during that day. But it's so hard to find out who those people are unless we actually see them. We just, we can do the best we can as far
I
as.
tried to contact people, that was the other thing. Someone came by on a cart and I went over to talk to him. I said, do you know who the cleaner is on the property? No, I'm like.
Yeah, no.
Well, if there's not a cleaner
I
on
was really
it.
upset about that
And
too,
here-
not
here-
knowing English.
Here's one part, each condo is owned by that owner, correct? And each owner has inside the unit, has their own cleaning crew that is not associated with the association. That is that owner's cleaning crew. So there is not a facilities cleaner that association-wise, that would be using that. You're talking about somebody's individual cleaner
It is.
is using that. That is something, like Lynn said, that is very difficult to track. With 200,
But
you know.
what about a message to some of the major cleaning places,
That,
about our standard here? How they
anytime,
should be using laundromats.
anytime you feel uncomfortable with a situation, please contact security and let them take
I
over.
did, I let them know.
While it was happening, I would have walked away
While
from
it was
them.
happening, I don't know
Okay.
where I should
Okay.
have just sat around and waited to see what cars got in so I could have got a plate,
Okay.
because it was a mess.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Can you outline the responsibilities of each of these people? I've not heard Pink Star, I've not heard that before.
Okay.
What is Emily's responsibility? Who trims the palm trees?
Okay, so-
They're wild.
All right, so Emily is the facility manager for Triton, who is our facilities management that takes care of the facility. Pink Star is our custodial and landscaping. The Pink Star contract says they will, I'm not a palm tree dude, trim the palm trees twice a year. They've been out here on site when I've been here 3 times trimming. I know they're bringing somebody else because evidently you're supposed to cut the seeds out of the palms. So they're bringing somebody out here to do that. So they have trimmed, Pink Star has trimmed a majority of the palm trees at least once this year. The contract says they'll do it at least twice, or do it twice.
The one in front of our place was trimmed last August,
What unit is that, ma'am?
4306.
Okay.
Is it one of the tall ones where they have to have a lift?
Yeah, probably. We're on the third floor and it's directly in front of us.
All right.
So
Another question? Yes, sir.
So from an accounting perspective, and I'm glad to hear it's gotten better, but I think some of the billing could have been attributed to kind of their procedures not being followed. I know very early on, I had to call them and they'd say, oh, call me back if you see this happening again, just misapplication of payments. And so those phone calls may have generated bills to us, but they're actually their procedures that were called. So I don't know if, any billing that we received was discounted, so like, we're still kind of cleaning stuff up for you guys. We understand the volume of calls.
Right, yes, sir. And it was them learning our system, us learning their system kind of deal, and the way they categorize things, and even the wording that they use, because I'm not an accountant, I don't play one on TV. Bill, on the other hand, can talk that talk. But, so yes, it was a learning curve, but the majority of our calls lately have been fairly elementary questions that we're trying to clean up, and with Lynn handling a lot of those calls, it's really helping.
But we did ask for a discount. We did receive mitigation on those calls. So that if it was their problem, if it was their error, then those were taken out. But we're still over, and it's just, people like to chat, some people just like to chat. And when you're chatting with an accountant, it's not a good thing to do, long
Conversation started at 9:51 and ended that, and that'd be agreement.
Did you have a follow-up, sir?
Just a second thing, and it's just with the speed bumps, it's just lesson learned. So in the subdivision I live in Missouri, we put speed bumps in, thinking it was a great idea to kind of reduce the traffic, and I was a fan of it, right? I didn't like it, it was a smart thing to do. But then we found out that our local fire department, our EMS were like, you can't have these things in here for whatever reason, so we have to take them all out. So just a caution as we do our research to make sure that we're not violating.
Right, yes, sir.
Well.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
One of the problems with the calling them, I found that when I tried to call them, I didn't get a response very often. But you called them, they always answered the phone. So, guess what? I think part of the problem was getting responses right away, like the other person said. That is a difficulty because, you don't want to be calling 15 times and then waiting for the answer. And the other thing was, I think that the procedures for paying for the assessments and those things were not real clear. And so I know I called because I wasn't sure how that would work. I got a late fee because we were in Europe when we were supposed to pay this thing, and somehow that didn't get communicated to me. At least it was probably my fault. But in other words, I think that was a lot of the problem. We need to have more quick response when we have a problem. I really do think that was a big part of the problem.
Okay.
I've been around here since 91, so I've been through a lot of different boards and different things and different ways of doing things. And I found that it was easy to call them because they had the answer right away. And, then it's done, basically. And so I think that was a part of the problem.
Okay, yes, ma'am, thank you. And hopefully we've cleaned that up and it's getting better.
Yep.
And it's growing pains. We've never had a professional accounting firm before. So we're learning their rules and how they operate versus what we're used to as owners, having that instant communication. So we're learning.
Face-to-face is nice too.
Right, yes, ma'am.
I mean, be able, and talking to someone rather than texting all kinds of,
Yep.
I'm old and so therefore, anyway, that's the way it goes.
Yes, yes, sir. I'm sorry.
I have a landscaping question. Is there a list of what is actually supposed to be manicured? Because there are areas that never get it. One of them is the shrubbery between building 3 and the beach. As a matter of fact, it actually got that last week. We've been here a year and a half for the first time ever. But around the east pool, that shrubbery that's around it, I've never seen it get trimmed. And there's just areas that seem like they don't get hit. is there actually a list of what they're supposed to be?
We have,
manicured?
yes, sir, we have the general list of shrubs to be trimmed, things like this. They have their day-to-days operations. Now, as far as the shrubs between buildings 1, 2, and 3 in the Gulf of Mexico, that is, obviously, if you have a first floor unit, you want to be able to see the Gulf. So the way it was explained to me, I'm not a horticulturist or an accountant, is cooler months is when you cut them. I know last year, our previous landscapers murdered the stuff at the West Pool, and it looked like sticks for about 6 months before it recovered. So they're waiting on cooler weather to cut it below the balcony. I had a walk around 2 weeks ago with them, and that was one of the things. I want it cut at least halfway of the balcony because we know that stuff sprouts up.
That's a good excuse for them to use, but you can't kill that stuff.
With my luck, it would.
I do know, between building 3 and the beach last year, and West Pool, between building 1 and the beach last year was all, you can see how much growth we have, the West Pool. We have actually, as a board, discussed the same issue you're saying, and like giving them to find things like where the fence is, keep that, where the pools, both pools, fence, where 1, 2, and 3 is, right the balcony footing, right there, a certain area. You don't want to take them back too much to, whatever, it's gonna look bad in the off season, but I'm sorry, there's gotta be pain sometimes to have beauty, right? You gotta cut back the stuff that's just gotten too wild. So we've all discussed that, and hopefully they will follow through with it. That's where I can tell y'all, we are constantly on that subject because sometimes I just want to bring my loppers and do it myself. You know what I mean?
That's what I did.
And yeah.
Right.
So I mean.
So we definitely.
I cut animals in it and all.
Would you like to do a bid for 2025?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was just saying, it's comforting to have somebody on site every day. I know Lynn works from home sometimes, and I'm sure she gets a whole lot more done that way. But for some of us who are very challenged by all the stuff, it's good to have somebody to go to. She's been wonderful when I call her. But I just think that's kind of what I miss, is being able to go down and say, hey, this isn't working. Who do I call?
Well, our facility people are here 40 hours a week.
But they're not a PR group.
No, ma'am, they are not.
And how do you find them?
Yeah.
I don't get them. I get Lynn.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Even though it's.
I understand the
Not
convenience of that, and it is very comforting, like you say. But as a board, 2 years ago, when we morphed into what we have now, it was, what are the true needs of the association on a day-to-day basis? It's great to talk, it's great, and I love seeing everybody. It's great, but majority of our stuff is rattle, squeaks, and water leaks. People making noise, that's a security issue. A water leak, you call facilities and things like that. So the evolution of a CAM's job, because you brought it up perfectly, it's from an association standpoint, it's very easy or less cumbersome for Lynn to be able to look at spreadsheets and do her stuff without somebody coming in and going, hey, how you doing today? It's great to see you. Look, I brought you an egg salad sandwich.
And I love egg salad sandwiches.
Yeah, those are all. But the business of the association, is just hard to justify the money and the expenses with benefits and everything else to justify having somebody here 40 hours a week when that time could be better spent other places.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and you look historically, the way these properties used to be run, they used to be run by big property management companies. And you have a big property management company, and then they hire security, and they hire landscaping, and they hire all the others, and they mark everything up 30%. And what happened is those costs started to get out of control. And so these management companies started to cut back, and they cut back on their accounting, and they cut back on the quality of the security, and they cut back here and there because they're trying to stay in relevant. But technology has evolved and you don't need that business model anymore. That's why you don't see it up and down the beach. What associations have done is they've said, well, look, how can we kind of get more involved in the management of our property and reduce our costs? And so one of the ways you reduce your cost is you look at, well, what do the people actually do? And about 85% or 90% of the questions we have on a daily basis or problems that we have relate to facilities. It's a water leak, it's something broke here, doesn't work here, the floor is dirty, this doesn't work, the light fell off. It's maintenance and it's facilities issues, right? And then the other issues are accounting issues. And so we have a professional accounting group that we work directly with, so we know we've got integrity in our financials. And we have a great facility management company that we work with that understands how these associations work, and they guide us and they keep us from shooting ourselves in the foot. So as we look at it, yeah, we could have, you want to have someone here full time just to say hi or to answer your questions, that's going to be another $50,000 a year that we're all going to have to pay. And, you know, so if you want to have somebody, it's an addition to what we're paying. So to have somebody dedicated that's going to be in an office, it's $50,000 to sit there. And as we go through and we look at the workload, you can't justify it. You just can't justify it. And so we're trying to save money because costs are kind of out of control. And we're just trying to squeeze every dime we can to make it work and to be efficient. But I want to remind people that you go back to some of those old models, and that's what got us into trouble. And 4 years ago, we didn't have any accounting records. There were no financial records other than going to the bank and getting the transaction. There were all kinds of questionable things that were going on around here. We discovered $1 million wire fraud and had to recover $1 million because someone had stolen $1 million from us. Wow. And that's because nobody was paying attention, and they were cutting corners, and that's the issue we had with Anchor, you know. And I wanted to go to a professional accounting firm long time ago, and we tried Anchor, and for whatever reason they were worse than. I mean, it's a mess. So we have too much money at stake here as owners. We have a lot at risk, and I don't feel comfortable taking chances. And I mean, it was so bad. It was unbelievably bad what we had to do to reconstruct this thing January 2021. It was horrible, and we never want to have that kind of financial exposure again. I mean, we were looking at $70,000 or $80,000 an owner if we had messed this up, and so we just don't want to go back to that. And if anybody's an accountant, please run. I mean seriously, if you're an accountant, CPA, you've got an MBA finance, you've got corporate compliance, please run and serve on the board for a little while. We've got most of the heavy lifting done, and we're in a position right now where I think and I don't mean to editorialize, but the other thing is boards change, right? And some people think we need to get a new board in all the time. That's probably the worst thing you can do. You need continuity, because you got to remember who owns what, where are our property lines? Why don't we give into this other association? Why do we do the things that we do? Because we've been here a long time and we know. And we're the #1 association. We've got the best footprint, we've got the best resources here, and we can't lose that. And you know, you make a few mistakes and you have to live with them for the rest of your life. And we just want to make sure we don't do that. So with a facilities management company that has great experience, they guide us. And the accountants guide us, and they say, well, I know you'd like to do it that way, but you really shouldn't do it that way because that's not proper. And all we want to do is play by the rules and not get any of us in trouble. And I think we're in a great position, but it's not as convenient and it's not as easy. But, you know, we've got Lynn here, and, you know, she may not be here, but she's here, you know.
Yes, ma'am.
Did the light bulbs ever get changed? Remember there was that thing about the turtles and.
No, ma'am.
There was, that one, I heard that.
No, you're absolutely correct. And nothing has been done on that. We've asked 6 times.
Yes.
Via email and letter to have, for lack of a better word, the conservation people to come in and do their light survey, and they have yet to show up. So that is still something on our list here, but they have not taken any action on their part.
Aren't we going to be fined if we don't do it properly?
That is the urban myth, but until we get the survey, we don't know anything about that.
And we also have the documentation to prove that we've tried.
We're
and
trying.
We're
Yes.
trying. So that's
They're,
what.
they're moving to beach town, unfortunately. Yes, ma'am.
I had a question. We came in late last night, and then who's responsible for the lighting in the drive from Fort Morgan Road into here?
Phase 2.
Well, because only one bulb was lit in that entire drive coming in last night.
Yeah, that's the, that road was bought, it's actually phase 2 and 3, right?
I think it's everybody.
It's not,
Everybody
it's
but
not,
us.
but the PUD didn't go in either.
Correct.
All right, so it's not us and not the PUD, but the others, because we said we're gonna control security, because that's our guardhouse and that's our land and that's our drive coming up, the short land, right? And, we got into it with them because they wanted to control everything, so it becomes unmanageable. And we said, no, it's not gonna be that way, that's our guardhouse, we're gonna run security, we'll sell you security for what it costs us, your fair share, but we're not gonna let you run security, you know? And they got pissed, and, excuse me, and, you know, and so they're, oh, you know, we've gotta find, you know, it was still the best, cheapest option for them. And in a moment of emotion, when it overtook them, they got together and made, I think, a really bad decision, and they bought the road, and they bought that little place where the coffee shop is, and they bought the 2 acres there that it sits on. I looked at buying it personally. Wade Everett is an owner here. He looked at buying it. Kiva looked at buying it, you know, and none of us could see how we could make any money on it, and so we didn't want to do it. The road, we've got a right to that road because we've been going down it, so there's nothing they can do to stop us from going down the road. They bought the liability, but they own the road and they own all that land, and now they're waking up to the realization that you gotta pay for it.
And
And they're not maintaining it.
Yeah.
It's not being maintained, landscape-wise either.
So we'll put some pressure on them and see if we can't.
But that drive was totally dark last night. I mean, there was one street light that was lit the whole way.
It's like 2 right by Kiva, and I was like, does
Gotta
anyone have a
go
sidewalk?
through
There's 2
Yeah.
right by,
Yeah.
right by
That'd be
Kiva.
the only pressure you could put.
Yeah, I'd bring that up, the liability issue.
Liability and safety.
Yes, ma'am.
I just have a quick question. You said that, you know, you were at the pool and somebody from the other face was there. Now, is that allowed now? Can we go to any of the pools like we used to?
I didn't mean to open up that can of worms, and I did.
I was just curious, I thought we weren't allowed to do it anymore. I know for years we were.
There's
Well-
nobody policing it, and until we wanna spend the money as an association and assess people to put up a higher gate
Fence it
and
and
put
lock it down.
electrical
It was
things.
kinda nice going to all the pools. I
We
remember
just
the
gotta do what we
grandkids
gotta
had to go
do.
every one every day.
There's currently not a reciprocal agreement.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
We've tried, you know, during the reconstruction process after Sally, there were no facilities open, so nobody paid. They're under a lot of pressure financially. You know, they've got some issues over there in one of the other buildings, and they don't want to pay money. And their people are using it, so then, you know, it frustrates me. It really
Okay.
frustrates me. They can't get in our pool, right? And if you go, for those owners that have been here for a while, they sued us over the pool, and we threw them out of the pool. And,
Because they didn't want to pay their cost.
they didn't want to pay their
To
costs.
repair it after a different hurricane.
So I don't want them on our tennis courts or our shuffleboard courts, but it comes back to what Joel always says, is the juice worth the squeeze? And the cost of trying to use electronic keys and to lock them out and all that, it just isn't
It
something
would
we
cost
can.
us a lot.
It costs us more than it's worth right now.
About
But as I looked over there,
$2,500 in entrance.
I looked over there a second ago and I watched them playing pickleball, and I thought, I wonder if they're from our face.
But guess what? They have a bunch of beautiful pickle courts, so I mean, you know, so they have a lock. Just saying.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, my question is about the fire alarm. We were cooking breakfast and we didn't notice any smoke in the kitchen, but the fire alarm went off. We first opened the doors real quick. Then my brother tried to turn off, on the breakers. And turning off the breakers didn't stop the fire alarm.
Correct.
So I thought, oh my God, we're gonna, there's gonna be a false alarm here and, the fire truck's gonna come up. So I called security and I said, our fire alarm's going off, but there's no fire in building 4. So, I'm wondering, where does the fire alarm go to? I mean, we didn't want to get a false alarm and get the fire truck over here.
Unit fire.
Triton. You're gonna, Triton Facilities Management is definitely who you call because they have the ability to control that through a system. That is a safety system that was put in when Building 4 was done, so you can't turn off the breaker because if it is a life emergency, that has to go off.
Yes.
Now, I do miss the old times when we had a fire, like you could, oops, I messed that up, you wave it, you push the reset button. I don't know that there's a reset button on there, so that's what I'm saying. You'll have to go through the contact.
But I don't
facility
believe
management. They can turn it off.
those don't signal a.
They do signal it, and that's why you keep hearing the beep. There is a thing, and then a lot of times there's, and it'll show you on that control device what unit is going off. It's very sophisticated system, and it's sometimes it is like technology, and it has its pros and it has its disadvantages, and sometimes it does do false things like that.
I
So
think it
when it
likes to
goes
smell
off,
bacon.
it doesn't go anywhere, it just makes the noise, or
It goes through the signal there, and then
this signal?
This panel.
the
But
panel.
who monitors that?
That's Triton and Security's responsibility to go through.
And it does also notifies at a level the fire department to come out. So I cooked a roux and set the dang fire alarm off and had to open all the doors and windows, and I had the same fear. But
So did it finally go off?
It automatically must go off after about 5 minutes or
yeah, and
something.
if you think there's a malfunction, please call Triton and they'll get the fire alarm folks to come in and look at it.
Triton's not over there all the time, so you have to call security, right?
No, Triton's number is what you would call first.
And
You would
who
call
answers that?
That would be Emily that answers the phone.
In
And
the
then
middle
they
of the
have,
night?
even after
They have on-call
hours,
people after hours.
even after hours, they have that. That is Triton's responsibility. to do
Okay,
that.
so
That's
we have
exactly
their
why they
number
get it.
somewhere, right?
Yes, ma'am. There was a question asked on our, video feed
See, we
about
need
the,
that posted somewhere.
it is, it's in
records.
Appfolio.
Huh?
It's in Appfolio, it's in the,
I recommend you make it a contact in your cell phone.
Yep, I'm fixed to, as soon
No,
as they.
for our records.
That's the Triton.
all right, so a question was asked on our video feed about the bylaw revision, how the bylaw revision is coming along. Unfortunately, we've had no movement on that. There's been some changes with our law firm about the bylaw revision we were talking about. There's been some changes in personnel. So we're exploring alternate outcomes with that right now. So we're moving forward. We want to do it. It was supposed to have been ready 18 months ago, but yet here we are. Again, we're at beach time. So we're working on that, but we've had some other fires to put out, but that is definitely on our list. You have a question? Yes, go ahead, sir.
Do, the lawyers give us a discount on work, that hasn't been done?
They hadn't charged us.
Does it go both ways? That is.
Yeah, it doesn't go both ways. It's just like waiting 45 minutes for your doctor's appointment after the scheduled time. Unfortunately, we're kind of at their will on that. I agree with you 100%, but I don't have the capability to do something like that, so we're at their whim. Yes, ma'am.
There's a light outside of Building 4 East, third floor elevator in that cubby hole that has not worked since Sally, and I reported it multiple times. And finally, at the end of last year, they told me that it was never wired to work, but it's pretty dark in there when you get off the elevator.
Did you put a work order in?
5 of them.
Okay.
yeah.
No, ma'am.
Well documented.
Did she get a better or something?
But I don't know, is the plan to not wire it? I assumed when they said that it was never wired, that then they would get up and wire it. That was December.
Third floor.
While we're in a second, so the number, if y'all have your phones, get it out right now.
And make it a contact.
Please make it a contact.
Security.
There are two options. So we have a global number that is 251-228-4343. That will get you to everybody. It's like, when you call the bank and they're like, you want time and temperature one? Say, oh, I got you. But the option 1 is security, option 2 is Triton Management. Triton Management also has a direct line that is 251-923-7790. That gets you to Emily or whoever will answer on call if it's an emergency.
And she's on duty.
That's facilities management. So like we were talking about earlier with the model, most of your concerns are gonna be something that is a facility management concern. That's why they are here the 40 hours versus Lynn not being here.
But they're on call 24.
And they're on 24. Like if there's a water leak or something, you know, there's some emergency situations where
So if
you need to get somebody on it fast.
If your fire alarm is going off, you're gonna call Emily, wake her up,
It doesn't
and
matter.
if she
That's
calls
their
somebody
job.
else.
That's their job.
That's their job.
That's why they get
But if it's on fire.
251.
Well, then you call
So
911.
fire call.
If call the emergency, dial 911. Right?
There should be a special feature you can hit.
251-923-7790.
So
And-
really, you could just dial 911, which I have.
If you're on fire.
I wouldn't recommend that because.
There are pull stations too, they can leave and go pull it.
Right.
And that-
Exactly.
that
If it
gets
is
the
a
fire
real
department out.
emergency, absolutely, but I wouldn't just call 911 just because that's your first, thing to do.
So
If it's
which
not an
number
emergency.
should we call first?
I would do 251-923-7790, and that will get you to Triton Facility
By
Management.
the time you find it.
Well, if you put it in your phone, you can put it, just like you would put, your emergency contacts otherwise, put in there, Triton Facility Management.
Yeah, she said.
You can come down, you can
And if
call
you
them,
need help, I'll be glad to help you.
and you can call them faster than you can get down here to talk to them.
Yes.
So at least just right your phone.
Just like Joel was saying, we don't want someone sitting in the office while she could be out being the +1 and helping on the project as well, getting things done. Like monitoring some of our vendors, like landscaping, that we've asked them to tree the bushes.
So the 4343 is like daily here.
That is a global number that will get you to either one option is security, 2 is maintenance, 3 is Lynn, Association Management, and Lynn also has a direct line.
Don't text that 4343 number though.
That number.
Yeah,
or
we found
27.
out some people are texting that and it doesn't go to us.
If you
We
need
don't
to
get that.
contact Lynn directly, her number is 251-979-3947. That's where you get to Lynn. And of course, we've got all the emails. All of this is in the newsletters every month in Outfolio. If you're not in Outfolio, get in it there.
The Triton numbers too, right there?
Yes,
every
all of
month.
it, and the
Every
Triton,
month.
the Triton number and the security is all 24/7. Don't worry about work hours.
And call Lynn about your accounting questions and she'll
Yes.
collaborate a list together and get it.
Guys, thank y'all so much. We appreciate it. Hope we answered your questions. Go enjoy the beach. Look forward to seeing everybody at 1:00 with the beautification. And support our food truck so they keep coming back. They'll be here from 1 to 3. And then we have our party tonight at 6:00. I had to work on that. 6:00 to 9:00
Where's that gonna meet?
at the East Pool for the soiree tonight.
Yes.
Yes, East Pool.
And if anybody wants one of these, they're
Yes,
$5. We have
$5.
6 left. 6
Please,
left.
please support.
Going once, going twice, they're gonna be gone.
We'll take them out there for the party.
It's vintage.
Vintage.
Buy the one food truck or what?
We had one ask if she could come. And she lives in the Fort Morgan area. She works at Tacky Jack's down the road. And she's